Good morning. We are waiting for the technology to catch up here. There we are. Just want to confirm that we are live. Good morning. We are waiting for the technology to catch up here. There we are. Okay, we are live, so let's go ahead and start. As I said, good morning. Happy Sunday. Today we're talking about an important topic. It's important to understand so that the topic can be understood and then put into the appropriate context. Many people in the you create your reality / law of attraction world believe that resistance is a bad thing. But without resistance, we cannot realize those things that we desire, those things that the universe is constantly fulfilling on our behalf without us having to do anything to have those things happen. And it's a paradox because the thing we're going to be talking about today, resistance, is a big reason why people put themselves in the middle of the unfolding manifestation and try to make what they want happen. And I was talking with a client this week about this, and I said to her, go ahead and put yourself in the middle of the unfolding of your beliefs, of the unfolding of your desires, thinking that you know better than the universe as to how the thing you're wanting to happen will happen. And the universe will gladly go, be my guest. You think you know better than I do? Go for it. And that's why, in so many ways, most people's desires fulfill in seemingly slow motion, if at all, because they're trying to do things, they're trying to make things happen when it's not our job to make things happen. Our job is to identify our desire and then line up with it while the universe takes care of all of the cooperative components that make that thing possible, that cause that thing to fulfill itself on its own. And our job is to align with that process so that we end up in the time and space coordinates so that we can enjoy the unfolding of that manifestation. That's exactly what I did when I moved into this apartment, which was built specifically for me in my reality, even though there are 90 other families who live in this apartment building with me. So today, we're going to talk about resistance. We're going to talk about the nature of resistance. We're going to talk about why resistance happens in the world. We're going to talk about how it happens and why it is a good thing. Just want to adjust my screen here because it looks like someone else may have joined. Good. Here we are. Yes. So let's take a look at this thing we call resistance. So what is resistance? First of all, resistance is inherent in every aspect of all that is, even in non-physical. In non-physical, where everything is happening all at once and instantaneously, it seems as though there is no resistance, but there is resistance inherent in non-physical. It's just so insignificant that it is not perceivable by points of consciousness embodied in physical reality that have access to non-physical. Points of consciousness such as my clients and myself, who are able to experience non-physical while at the same time being in physical reality. When we go into non-physical, moving through alternate dimensions, we cannot perceive the resistance that is inherent in non-physical. But in physical reality, resistance is evident everywhere. Resistance is nothing more than a result of misaligned focus. It's multiple things actually. Resistance is. It's multiple things. It's the result of misaligned focus. So when we turn away, in alignment terms, from what our broader perspective is leading us to, resistance naturally shows up. Now, because it happens that way, we're talking about what resistance is. Resistance also acts as an indicator. It is a process by which infinite intelligence, which is what you are, uses to guide you toward everything you want. Now, a minute ago I said your broader perspective is leading you to. It's kind of a misnomer to say it that way. Your broader perspective is constantly guiding you to everything that you want, but you're in the lead. After all, if it's guiding you to everything that you want, you first have to identify what it is you want. And then, as I said in the introduction, you have to line up with it, what you want. And when you do that, you can perceive the guidance of your broader perspective leading you to what you want. But if you aren't lined up with that guidance, you experience the force called resistance. And that resistance shows up in many ways. The first way it shows up, and probably the most important way, is in negative emotion. The second way it shows up is in thoughts and beliefs that are contrary to what your broader perspective knows about whatever it is that you're thinking about. And that, again, when you're thinking a thought or entertaining a belief that is inconsistent with what your broader perspective knows, then you experience resistance, which, again, feels like negative emotion. The other way that resistance shows up in your experience is what's happening in your physical reality. Whether or not you are easily moving toward seeing evidence of the unfolding of your desires fulfilling themselves. So another way that resistance shows up is through the delay of the unfolding of your desires. The biggest problem with resistance is because people don't understand that resistance acts as a guide, they tend to add unnecessary levels of resistance on their path. And as they do that, the indicator, that is resistance, gets more intense. It gets more intense not because it's wanting to punish you, but because it's trying to get you to get back into the center line of your path, which is leading you to everything that you're wanting. So as resistance gets stronger in life experience, that's a good thing if you know what resistance is and you know how to respond to it. But you don't have to wait until the resistance gets so strong, I was going to say gets so bad, but gets so strong that you can't bear it. A little bit of resistance should be sufficient to get you back into the center line of your path. And this is why it's so important to know, first of all, what resistance is and the purpose it serves, and then secondly, the indicators that show you resistance is present, the most important being the thoughts and beliefs you have, and if you can't put your finger on those, the emotions that you're feeling. You use your emotions and your thoughts and beliefs, your improved thoughts and beliefs, to move back into the center line of your path. And you know when you've moved back onto the center line of your path when you no longer feel resistance. And the absence of resistance feels like positive emotion. And the more positive, the more eager, the more optimistic, the more appreciative, the more better feeling, the more joy, the more freedom, the more empowerment you feel. Those are all positive emotions in escalating levels. The more positive emotion you feel, the less resistance you have on your path, and the more you're in the center line of your path. And as you move up those levels of emotions, which is indicating decreased resistance, you're able to more clearly perceive two things. One, evidence of the desires you have unfolding on their own, and two, guidance. You're able to perceive guidance from your broader perspective, which is leading you to the ultimate fulfillment of those things that you want. But most people don't remain chronically in those high-level positive emotions. Most people are flipping back and forth between lower positive emotions like satisfaction and maybe some optimism or positive expectation. They're flip-flopping between there and then moving through boredom and disappointment and frustration and annoyance and anger and sadness and so on. So if you're in that range of flip-flopping, then you can't, number one, you can't perceive the evidence of your desires unfolding. You can't hear the guidance from your broader perspective. And as a result of that, you are experiencing resistance. And if you've been doing this chronically, then your life, rather than being filled with evidence of your desires unfolding on their own without you having to do anything to have those things happen, rather than having a life filled with that kind of evidence, your life is filled with unexpected, unwelcome, dissatisfying life experience. Now, again, this doesn't mean you're being punished. It means that you have resistance, a lot of resistance on your trail that needs cleaning up so that you can get back on the center line of your path. And if you don't do anything in response to that lagging indicator that is physical reality, showing you that you have resistance in the form of negative experiences in your life, then the negative experiences will get worse. They get more intense. They become more negative until it's undeniable that your life sucks. And that's what a lot of people call hitting rock bottom. But some people can't even take corrective action when they hit rock bottom. And when it gets that bad, then usually when they break through the bottom that they hit, when they hit rock bottom, usually the next action is some sort of violent retaliation on physical reality, a mass shooting or something like that, or a self-selection out of life experience, which humans call suicide, taking their own life. So this resistance thing is serious business. You can build up so much resistance that you retaliate on your physical reality, which is just like harming yourself because you're creating your physical reality, or you self-select out of physical reality, which is a viable option. It's just that you're probably going to choose to live your life over again because you didn't get the opportunity of living the fulfilled life that you came into physical resistance to experience. So physical reality is a very powerful indicator showing you where you are relative to where you're going. Where you're going is moving along a constant, unending, because you're eternal, series of manifestations which are contributing to the expansion of yourself and the expansion of all that is. So this resistance thing is a good thing, isn't it? Because it helps you find your center line. And again, resistance doesn't have to be really strong. You can have super subtle resistance. And as a result of that super subtle resistance, stay in the center lane. For example, when you're driving down a road, let's say a freeway, and you're in the middle lane, you usually don't wait until you hit the edges of the middle lane before you correct your course and get back into the center of the lane. Usually, this is often happening subconsciously because you're on automatic pilot when you're driving a car, for the most part, especially on a highway. Usually, you make minute course corrections as you perceive your car veering in either direction, left or right, off the center line. You don't wait until you get to the dots on the road that demarcate your lane from the other lane before you get back into the center line. You usually don't wait that long. You're making constant course corrections to stay in the middle of your lane, often with one hand on the windowsill and two fingers maybe holding the steering wheel. The same thing can happen with regard to managing resistance. You don't have to wait until resistance gets really strong, until negative emotion gets really bad, or your thoughts and beliefs turn really dark, before you do something about your thoughts and beliefs or do something about your emotional state. You can get to the point in life experience where your emotional calibration and your thought calibration is automatic, just like when you're driving a car. And that's the chronically positively focused state I show my clients how to achieve. Now, as you move through your day, it's a cycle, right? Daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime. As you move through your day, the daytime part, it's typical that you're going to build up resistance as you move through your day, especially if you're living an ordinary life, which tends to mean that you have more unfulfilled desires than you have fulfilled desires. That's an ordinary life. The charmed life is a life in which you have more fulfilled desires than unfulfilled desires that you perceive. So, in the ordinary life, when you have more unfulfilled desires, you're more aware of the unfulfilled desires than the fulfilled desires, and you're moving through that day, you tend to build up resistance and let's call it, this is not really accurate, but let's call it a maximized state of built up resistance feels like being tired at the end of the day. So fatigue is not about being physically tired, because I'm sure you've had experiences where you've maybe partied all night long and didn't feel any tiredness after a full day. Being tired is not a physical condition, it's a spiritual condition. It typically occurs, being tired, when you have maximized the amount of resistance you can handle in a given period. And that's why you feel tired. So when you go to bed at the end of the day, in the sleep state, you are managing the releasing of resistance. Now, when you get to the point where you're chronically positive, you're positively deranged, as I like to tell my early clients, then the feeling at the end of the day doesn't feel like tired. When you get into the advanced stages of the positively focused practice, what you're feeling at the end of the day is an eagerness to go to sleep, because you know that the sleep state is a state of returning into non-physical, and there are a lot of powerfully positive things you're doing in non-physical across multiple dimensions that you're intimately, excitedly involved in. And so for those people who are positively focused and who have a glimmer of what's happening in non-physical, coming to the end of the day doesn't feel like the end of the day. It just feels like a continuation of an exciting life experience, getting ready to expand beyond this physical reality into the more that we are. But if you're living the ordinary life, then when you get to the end of the day, you start to feel tired because you've built up resistance. But again, you don't have to build up so much resistance that by the end of the day, you're crawling into bed, dog tired. You can move through your day excited about every single moment. What's next? What's next? Oh, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Oh, I'm so excited about what's happening right now. Wow, I'm so blessed to be in this life experience. This way of living can be your way of life. This is what I call the charmed life, and it's available to everybody. But in order to get there, you have to learn how to soothe resistance to the point where it's so insignificant in your life experience that you can perceive directly the guidance from your broader perspective, and also perceive that your life experience is filled with fulfilled desires, with more desires on the way, fulfilling themselves. This is so good. So if you've heard everything that I've said, you can see how resistance is a powerfully good thing. It's helping you track the center line of your journey through all that is. And if you use it correctly, you tune yourself, your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions in such a way that your ongoing day-to-day life experience is filled with eager expectation, empowerment, a sense of freedom, a sense of joy, and a sense of deep appreciation. And when you're having those experiences, you are, I'm using a phrase that has some distortion in it, you are maximally aligned with just enough resistance to allow you to maintain that state, just like the subtle resistance you perceive when driving your car allows you to stay in the center of that lane. Oh, it's so good knowing this. I'm so glad I am alive in this physical body, aware of what I know, and moving through my life trajectory in a way that fills me with deep satisfaction. And I'm so appreciative that I have people, my clients, that I can have conversations with, who I can have conversations with about this material, because every time I talk with them about this material, it amplifies my awareness of it. And the same is true with this live broadcast. Talking about this, even though there are 2 people perhaps watching this video, I am doing it because it amplifies my own alignment. It soothes my own resistance, keeps it at that minimal level, so that I can perceive the charmed life that I am living, the charmed life that I am leading by example, all of my clients too. It's so good. Okay, that's enough. Oh, let me give some instruction real quickly. So how does one align in such a way that they soothe resistance? How does that happen? It starts by telling the most optimistic story you can about whatever's going on in your life at this moment. And then, because humans tend to waffle between 3 points of consciousness, the present, the past, and the future, when you're thinking about a past event, checking in with yourself and telling the best possible story about that past event. And when you're thinking about a future event, again, checking in with yourself and telling yourself the best possible story about that future event. And if you do that consistently, you will find yourself successfully mitigating your resistance and increasingly finding a basket of evidence that proves that everything is working out for you and that your life is unfolding perfectly. If you want more direct instruction, I'm going to be providing more as we move through these lives. Stay tuned, and until then, I'll see you in the next one.